Hey, Baker, good to see you, and good to see everybody else. Hey,
Good to see you.
so for the last couple of months, we've all been trying to make the best out of a tough situation. I'm just curious, from your standpoint, is there a positive in that this has allowed you to even focus more on football? Not that you wouldn't be, but this has been so different. How has this worked for you from that standpoint?
I think there's been a lot of learning throughout this process. I think during all this, it's kind of made everybody go back to the just sheer fundamentals of you can't do so many complex drills and all this stuff because everybody might not have the same equipment, but we can teach the very base fundamentals of what this new coaching staff wants to do and go from there. So I think that's been the best thing is essentially just getting back to the basics.
And I know you had some guys down last week or the week before, wide receivers and tight ends and stuff. How did that go? How good was it to get the competitive juices going a little bit? And then, like you said, try to introduce some of the new stuff and get back to the basics with them.
It felt really good. I'll be honest. I mean, we didn't have everybody. Didn't want to bring some of the younger guys down to overwhelm them because we're not through our installs yet. So wanted them to still feel like they're getting used to it. But we had 9 guys here, so it felt really good to get around them, start speaking the terminology, and for some of these guys to be around each other. I think that was a big thing for Hooper to be down here and be around some of the guys. Because a lot of them were here last year, but it was good for everybody to be around speaking the same terminology, like I said, and, just kind of hanging out. During all this, you're kind of stuck at home, but we had a chance to get outside and throw a little bit.
Thanks, dude.
All right, thanks, Tom. We're going to go to Mary Kay next. If we could, let's just keep it to one question at now, please. We want to make sure we get to as many people as possible. So, Mary Kay, your line is now open.
Hey, Baker. Thanks for doing this. So can you tell me about your footwork that Alex Van Pelt has wanted you to try? How has that been going? And, are you making a lot of progress with that? Are you getting the muscle memory to pull that off?
Yeah, so I think the big thing when he's talking about that, essentially it's changing my stance up in shotgun formation, putting my left foot forward, which I've never done. But if you look at places he's been, Andy Dalton did it in Cincinnati, Aaron Rodgers does it in Green Bay. It's just a different rhythm and timing. And so, yeah, it is breaking some of the habits that I've had for a long time, but getting used to it. It's just about repetition, to be quite honest with you. So you can drill it, you can get used to it, but then that's why having the guys down last week was so great of being able to actually translate that to real timing on routes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Kay. Jake Trotter?
Yeah, hey, Baker. Just your thoughts on what Andrew Berry has done this offseason, what the team has done specifically for you and for the offense around you. And then also, how much of the Vikings last season offensively have you watched, and what do you think of the scheme and given the personnel you guys have, what do you think you guys can do out of that offense with multiple tight ends, heavy play action, et cetera?
Yeah, so that's looking at the grand scheme of things of what we brought in throughout the draft and trading, free agency, all that. It seems like they're absolutely, one message, one team. We have a game plan for what we really want to try and accomplish. And it seems as though Andrew and Kevin and the whole staff has gotten on the same page of, personnel-wise of how we want to accomplish that. So seeing the cut-ups and everything, yeah, we do have somewhat similar personnel to what Minnesota had, with the strong running game, picking up Jedrick and Conklin as of recently for our run game to help those backs out. And then just for the passing game of what Minnesota did, they had some good tight ends. And so having David still on board and Steven, a young guy growing in, and then also obviously Austin Hooper to come help out with that, as productive as he is. So personnel-wise of what they've tried to do for the scheme, matching that up, it seems like they're on the same page. I'll say that. And then for the whole team, we're bringing in guys that have the right mindset, that want to win, and it seems as though they will do anything to have that accomplished.
Thanks, Jake. Scott Patrick.
Hey, Baker. What are the challenges or difficulties in having to learn another offensive system especially without being in the building and around the coaches and on the field.
I apologize if you hear the trash truck moving through the neighborhood. But it is what it is. I coming out of the draft, I always thought I was able to adapt to whatever system I was going to be in, to be a smart player, something I pride myself on. So it could be an excuse if I wanted it to be. But there's nothing wrong with gaining knowledge from different guys that have coached around and been around great players. If you can pick up something from all these different systems and put it all together, I know I haven't had the success that I truly want to accomplish down the road, but if I can combine all this and play within the system that I'm in now, that's when the good things happen. If you can relate and you can react because you've seen certain looks before, you've seen reads before. It's the combination of knowledge. That's why having guys like Alex Van Pelt and Stefanski that have had so much success, and then you bring in Case Keenum, who's played in that system, so he can relate to those reads, and then also having a guy like Garrett in our room as well that I can just bounce things off of. It's going really well right now, so I'm happy about it. It's not an excuse, so it's not what it's going to be.
Thanks,
Jeff Shadell.
Baker, could you explain why do you think this year will be better for you personally than last year was?
I have a different approach to this year. I think it's everybody that has been interviewed in our team has kind of hit the nail on the head over and over about it's just time to work. It's time to do our thing instead of talking about it. So this is the first media thing I've done, just because there's no need to be talking about it. It's just time to go do it. And right now it's kind of moving in silence, which is fine with me. That's how I used to do it before getting on a bigger stage. So I'm happy to get back to those roots. And like I said earlier, get back to the fundamentals to where I can accomplish the goals when the season comes around.
Thanks, Jeff. Next up, Nate Ulrich.
Hey, Baker, good to see you. With John Dorsey leaving, the GM who drafted you is gone, and you hear a lot of people talking about the Browns. They say, year 3 for Baker, this is the year he's got to, prove that he's that franchise quarterback all over again. How much is that motivating you, pushing you? Not necessarily what outside people are saying, but to prove yourself the way that you have in the past.
I think, for me, that goes back to the mindset that I'm comfortable in living in, that work ethic mentality. I think that fits it, but there's no doubt year 3 is always a big year in these contracts and timing wise, everybody knows that, but I'm not going to put any added pressure on myself. There's no need for that, because if I win, good things will happen. Good things will happen for our team and the guys around me, and that's the most important part. So if I play better, that's why quarterback is one of those positions. It's the hardest in sports. If I play better, our team's going to do better. So I put that pressure on myself, and so it doesn't matter what year it is. I have to play better each year.
Daryl Ryder.
Hey, Baker, good to see you. I'm just curious, what are your impressions of Kevin Stefanski? Unfortunately, your face-to-face time with him is through a computer screen or a phone screen, but just what are your impressions of him and the offense that he's looking to run, which is obviously your 3rd or 4th in 3 years?
Yeah, no, Kevin's obviously an extremely sharp guy, and he's able to relate to everybody, and that's one of the best parts about him, being around him so far. And just hearing his message, it's everything he does is with a purpose. It's a very deliberate message, and he has everybody believing in that on the staff. And so I think that's how the foundation should be set, and he's doing an unbelievable job of that. And then scheme-wise with him, of establishing the run and everything he did in Minnesota, and then what that does for the rest of the game, opening it up in the play action, in the pass game, and also just controlling the clock. They were a very efficient team for the past few years, and so and that's kudos to him.
Marla Ridnour.
Hi, Baker. I was just curious about, you talked about how important this year is. Do you feel like this virus and this has changed you personally and maybe made you realize how important football is and give you a new motivation kind of?
Oh, absolutely. I think everything that we might have taken for granted, when we were living in a non-quarantine life, I think we'll look back on that when it when things do open up again, hopefully soon, that we'll take advantage of those opportunities, because you only get so many in this game of football that I've been blessed to play. It doesn't last forever. And so to be able to take advantage of that and, enjoy the moments, I think is going to be good for me. Getting back to that and having fun and enjoying the process of how to get to the winning, because that's the most enjoyable thing looking back on it. It might not be fun during the process, but then you look back and you're very grateful for that process. So I think it's taken us back to the basics, like I keep saying, but I think that's very true.
Tony Zarella, you're up.
Hey, Baker, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. I want to follow up on what I think Nate asked you. Everyone gauges year 3. It's kind of a measuring stick. Some guys have made it to the Super Bowl by year 3. Is that unfair to you in a way? I mean, those guys didn't play for 3 different head coaches in 3 years.
No, it's not an excuse for me. I said, I always have, the best quality about a quarterback is raising the, productivity and the level of the guys around him. So it doesn't matter what's going on. If I do my job and try and do that and accomplish that, then I'm playing quarterback at a high level. So, year 3, but the goal every year is to make it to the Super Bowl. If you don't set that goal, then you're playing for the wrong reasons. You're not playing to win. So it is what it is. Like I said, it's not an excuse.
Fred Greetham.
All right. Baker, how do you feel your skill set matches what Stefanski's offense is, and how it brings out the best for you?
I think it matches up very nicely. Being in control, getting checks in the run game, just being efficient. And last year I know was not a great year for turnovers, but I've always prided myself on not turning the ball over. And so that's something the conversations we've had is when we do take our shots, it has to be smart decisions, and there's nothing wrong with a good incompletion every once in a while. So the scheme-wise, I think my skill set matches up to that very well, and then also how he's coaching it. I think it's going to be a great fit.
Mary Kay?
Can you just talk about how you think that things will go this year with Odell and Jarvis, considering they're coming off of their surgeries and, who knows how much they're really going to be able to practice in training camp? Do you feel like you have enough to build on, or might that be a little bit of a hindrance in the early going?
No, I think what we're doing right now in these Zoom meetings and these installs will create a great foundation for scheme-wise of being on the same page. And I've enjoyed kind of sitting in and listening on some receiver meetings with Coach O'Shea. He's a very sharp guy as well. But, I mean, those guys are working extremely hard after their surgeries for the rehab process, and they look really good. They say they feel really good, and it appears that way. It's just a different mindset going into it. And I think, like I said, I think they went back to the basics. They're ready to take over, and it's their time now. They know that. They know that we only have so many more opportunities together. So they're going to do everything for each other, and I'm looking forward to see the productivity they have.
Nate Ulrich, we need you to unmute on your end, and you're up.
Hey, Baker. Hey, Case Keenum being here. How has your relationship developed here, virtually? And what do you think about having a guy like that in the room with you who's succeeded with Kevin Stefanski and in this scheme?
I think that's a huge part of, why I was looking forward to being around Case, was that he was in this system so I can, hear his thoughts on how it's taught, how he reads it. He's been in a lot of systems as well, and it hasn't been an excuse for him. And so just hearing how he visualizes certain things, certain reads has been great. And he was able to come to the throwing session we had here in Austin as well. He's down in Houston, so he drove up. And it was great for him to be around those guys too, because it's his first time meeting a lot of them. But he's a great guy, great veteran to have in the room.
We got 4 hands up. We'll close out with those 4. Jake Trotter.
Yeah, Baker, you were talking about Odell and Jarvis just a second ago. How big of an issue was that for you, for the offense, those guys just basically being hurt to varying degrees throughout the entire season? And how important is it for this offense reaching its potential, those guys being right, and you guys being able to practice every day instead of sporadically throughout the season?
I think, them being a little bit banged up, well, not a little bit, they had to have surgery. So, no, it definitely hindered them physically, obviously, but the mental part of it, the frustrations that came from that, I think affected it more. Because, if you don't feel like you're able to play at a certain level, that's frustrating. That's really frustrating if you're not able to physically do the things you're normally capable of doing. So for them, I feel that frustration, but like I said earlier, they're taking advantage of this time to get better, and I'm looking forward to see what they do this year.
All right, we'll go to Scott, Daryl, and Tom to close it out. Scott?
Hey, Baker, I'm curious about your feelings, around this virus and when you're going to be able to come back. Are you optimistic there's going to be a full season? Are you scared at all to see how it's going to be being around so many guys, contact sport, and are you confident it's going to be safe?
I'm expecting to have a full season, to be quite honest with you. I don't know if we'll have anything in the off season. I know there's rumors going around about a possible mini camp or things like that, but I'm staying optimistic because the world needs sports. We need to, be safe with that in mind. But I think hopefully soon it'll start to open up and we'll have football back again because I know I need something to watch on TV right now. It'd be great to watch the playoffs of basketball. So it's good to hear the news that other sports are attempting that. And I think that's the blessing in disguise about football having a later start in the season. So we get to, see how people handle it, how it goes before we really have to make any rash decisions.
All right, Daryl Ryder.
Baker, piggybacking off Scott's question here, player safety is obviously something that's at the forefront. J.C. Treader is now the union president. He's obviously in your locker room. So from your perspective, what needs to happen or what would you like to see happen that would make you feel safe, both as a man as well as a player?
I think there's a lot of steps that people are taking now of, washing your hands, doing all the basic stuff we've talked about, social distancing and helping out just to kind of clean the world as it is. So I think as it continues on, there will be different steps that everybody takes just throughout everyday life. And so I think once we get there, down the road, I can't predict the future about if there will be some better treatments and things like that. But, I'm expecting a good process and for us to be able to open up. JC is in our locker room, like you said, and he's going to lead a great charge with an FLBA.
And to close us out, Tom Withers.
Baker, I'm sure you've been stir crazy more times than not during this whole thing. What have you done to kind of keep yourself entertained and not be at Emily's throat too much?
Hang on 1 second. All right, Baker.
Rob, what are you doing?
Rookie mistake.
Got me muted over here.
I've got to be better.
No, I've tried to get better at golf. It's not happening. But my efforts there, I've always been a high effort guy. So I'm swinging hard still. It's still not going straight. Other than that, tried to find some new shows, enjoyed the Tiger King, got back into Ozarks. We've been on the lake quite a bit, trying to enjoy the weather while we can. I'm sorry for you people that are in Cleveland right now. But it's been pretty hot down here, so getting outside and a lot of board games, to be quite honest with you. A lot of competitive board games that don't always end in happiness, but it's good to keep that drive